On the news tonight, Adams Oshomole emerges national chairman of the All Progressives Congress APC. In business, federal government begins voluntary asset repatriation scheme. And on the foreign scene, Spanish authorities rescues 800 refugees off the Mediterranean coast. Hello and welcome to Superscreen Flagship News, broadcasting to you live from the city of Lagos State, Nigeria. I am Olamide Onka. Many thanks for joining us. Former Edo State Governor Adams Oshomole has emerged national chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC. Chairman of the APC National Convention Planning Committee, Abubakar Badaro, who presided over the convention, announced Adams Oshomole's return on the polls for the position of the national chairman. Worthy of note is none of Oshomole's former party opponents were sighted near the stage when Badaro made the announcement, which led to him being unanimously affirmed as chairman by the delegates. Meanwhile, leader of the New People's Democratic Party (NPDP) bloc within the All Progressives Congress, Kawu Baraje, has warned the APC leadership not to celebrate yet, despite conducting a successful convention on Saturday. The national leader of the All Progressives Congress (APC), Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, has accused the People's Democratic Party (PDP) of planning to loot the nation's treasury for 60 years. He stated this in a speech at the National Convention of the All Progressives Congress in Abuja, which was released to journalists. Tinubu made so many people had thought the merger by different political parties, which gave birth to the APC, would be short-lived, but it has exceeded expectations. Tinubu alleged that those against the formation of the APC employed many tactics to frustrate its emergence, which eventually proved futile in the end. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has arrested a federal auditor with the Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate, PTAD, for extorting money from retirees. In a statement disclosed to journalists, PTAD explained that he planned the apprehension of the auditor, who was calling pensioners and demanding that a percentage of their pension be paid to him after they had received payments. You will recall that the Directorate had advised federal retirees to beware of fraudsters that might want to take advantage of them in any way. According to the Commission, the suspect claimed that the payments were tokens for helping to fast-track the processing of their payments. It also stated that the arrest of the auditor is a sign that its anti-corruption program is beginning to yield results. The agency added that the auditor had been released on bail pending the conclusion of investigations on the case. The federal government, through the Ministry of Defense, is perfecting strategies to establish a counter-terrorism force in Nigeria. The force is expected to tackle terrorist groups in the Saharan region, particularly the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria fighters, otherwise known as ISIS and Boko Haram. The resolution was contained in a communique issued after a meeting convened between the defense ministers in Abuja on Friday to seek regional cooperation towards combating ISIS and other terrorist groups. Minister of Defense Mansour Dan Ali said the meeting would submit its recommendation to the Conference of Heads of State and Governments for onward implementation. It was gathered and agreed that every country would implement national plans on counter-terrorism and accompany them with demobilization, rehabilitation, and reintegration programs for the affected ones. Renewed airstrikes by Operation World Stroke in Benue State has left one member of a militia dead. The air operation, which started on Friday, also led to the arrest of 3 members of the same gang in Ayaka near the Katsinala local government area of the state. Security advisor to the Benue State Governor, Paul Hemba, told journalists that the 3rd gang member was arrested in Taraba State by the troops of 93 Battalion and had already confessed to the killing of Denen Igbana, who was former senior special assistant to the governor on security matters. Hemba told troops had uncovered a thick forest in the Logo local government area, which the bandit used as highlight. Hemba also explained that the airstrikes in Benue State were intelligence-based and targeted at dislodging Ghana, who he described as the most wanted gang leader and his men. And our suspected Boko Haram members have killed 4 persons in Tukushe village, just kilometers away from Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. The spokesman for the police in Borno State, Edet Okon, who confirmed the attacks in a press release, said gunmen suspected to be Boko Haram terrorists attacked Tunkushe village in the Kondugu local government area of Borno State, which led to the killing of 4 persons. Okon added that the police has deployed more personnel to strengthen security within the area. Chairman of the All Progressives Congress in the APC Southeast have urged President Muhammadu Buhari to disassociate himself from the purported unity list and circulation, threatening that his re-election bid is at the stake in the region. Addressing journalists at the APC National Secretariat in Abuja, spokesman for the state chairman, Ben Nwonye, said any attempt to ignore the earlier endorsement of the outgoing national officers for re-election will be an aberration on their part.
When you say unity list, you cannot have a unity list when leaders of the party in one geopolitical zone is not considered. That is a misnomer. You cannot consider that to be a unity list. If you meet in a hall where you have just governors, and Southeast has just one governor, and that one governor is the only opinion you took out of 5 states, and you produce a list, that is not a unity list. In fact, that is a disunity list. And the only way you can correct the disunity list is through democratic process. And so if the individual is popular, they take on and they show up instead of canvassing and waiting for former this, former that, making phone calls to people whom, if they produce this so-called unity list, which I tag this unity list, it will cause, Mr. President, the election in Southeast. It will cause disaffection. We are doing this not because of us. With all these entrants, we are sure to win Southeast for President Muhammadu Buhari. There are not anyone putting up a unity list that failed to include, to be all-inclusive of our leaders. Is doing no good. In fact, they are doing harm to the opportunities we have already created. These state chairmen have raised the statue of our party in the Southeast. We were being called Boko Haram, and we stood our ground. At the point we are standing our ground, most of the people that are living, we are not there.
And coming up on Superscreen flagship news, federal government begins voluntary asset repatriation scam. That's on the business scene. These and many more stories coming your way after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Superscreen flagship news, and now for some business stories. Nigeria is set to partner foreign consultants comprising legal practitioners and other experts in Switzerland on a voluntary offshore asset repatriation scam. Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami disclosed this to journalists in Bern, Switzerland, after a meeting held at the Nigerian Assembly. Under the scheme, experts would collaborate with the Swiss government to target funds that have not been identified in ongoing investigations. You will recall that since 2015, $322 million looted funds have been repatriated from Switzerland. According to Malami, Switzerland has been chosen as the pilot nation for the scheme, given the existing partnership on asset repatriation between both countries. Malami also restated the federal government's commitment to fighting corruption within the country. The federal government says it is pushing for the use of local technology for the rehabilitation of the 4 refineries located in Port Harcourt, Kaduna, and Warri. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Ibe Kachiku, who disclosed this to journalists in a podcast in Abuja. Kachiku said international oil companies that are joint venture partners with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, in the production of crude oil will soon be mandated to first provide crude for local refinery before shipping it out to the global oil market. The minister said he had directed one of the agencies under the ministry to support a tertiary institution that came up with a local model to help revamp the refineries. Kachiku, who was impressed by the model from the institution, stated that the federal government would use the technology component from the Ahmadu Bello University for the rehabilitation of the refineries. Still in business, the United States has cut its crude oil imports from Nigeria by 62.08% to 3.92 million barrels in March, a figure which represents the lowest monthly level since February 2016. The latest data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration shows the country imported 10.3 million barrels and 10.34 million barrels in January and February respectively, while it bought as much as 13.34 million barrels in October last year. The U.S. purchased a total of 24.28 million barrels of Nigerian crude in the first 3 months of this year, down from 25.97 million barrels in the same period last year. The import of Nigerian crude by the U.S. rose by 48% to 112.92 million barrels last year, the highest annual level in 5 years, which came up from 75.81 million barrels in 2016 and 19.86 billion barrels in 2015. The U.S. exports will continue to rise in the medium term, and by 2022, the country will be the 4th biggest oil exporter in the world, behind Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Iraq. Still talking business, the Senior Staff Association of Electricity Allied Companies has expressed disappointment over the state of Nigeria power sector. President of the union, Chris Okonkwo, expressed their reservations to journalists in Lagos State.
The power sector is still going through gloomy times. Yes, the government is making its own efforts to see if we'll turn that corner we all are hoping for. In fact, there are reports recently that people use less generator or less diesel today. And I believe government thinks that is something to cheer. But as a union, as the senior staff body in the sector, we have nothing to cheer yet. We state that the issues, particularly with generation, with transmission, with distribution, is still tugging at all of us, such that our industrial base is still comatose, our residential places are still in darkness, and above all, that the labor component of the power sector is still under the jackboot of the investors, still under the jackboot of the people whom we trusted with the assets of the power sector, particularly the generation companies and distribution companies.
Meanwhile, the union is likely to embark on an indefinite industrial shutdown in TCN over the persistent interference of the managing director in their activities. They are, however, calling for the removal of the TCN management in 2 weeks to avert a possible industrial action.
The union, because of the reason of suspension of each check-up, as in the letter written by the same MD, for reason of suspending statutory meetings, which is in the condition of service and as provided for in Labour Act, that management and unions must engage each other for interactions on sundry matters. Because of these two actions of stopping the check-up dues that should come naturally to the National Secretariat of the Union according to the Act, and for the action of interfering with the structure of the union, sponsoring, diverting the money that is meant to the union to sponsor a few members of the union that he has been sponsoring to go around to make it look as if there's a faction in this body. This association declared trade dispute with him. Consequently, the union has mobilized its members for a showdown. And for strategy reasons, that date will be communicated to you.
President of the Senior Staff Association of Electricity Allied Companies, Chris Okonkwo, speaking there. And still ahead tonight on Superscreen Flagship News, the Spanish authorities rescues 800 refugees off the Mediterranean coast. That's on the foreign scene. These and many more stories coming your way when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Superscreen Flagship News broadcasting to you from the city of Lagos State, Nigeria. And now for some foreign stories. The Spanish rescue boats have saved more than 700 refugees trying to cross the Mediterranean from Africa to Europe. 3 boats belonging to the Spanish Coast Guard saved 769 people in total on Saturday. The majority was found between the North African coast and the island of Majorca, while others were saved on their way to Canary Islands of West Africa. According to the International Organization of Migration, Spain has become increasingly popular for refugees trying to enter Europe over the last